Neither of our runners getting the free rupee. They'll both be unhappy about that. Sometimes there's a rupee in that bush and it's just a little, you know, it's like finding a penny on the ground. Feels like a little good luck for the rest of the run. You're seeing some pumping on both sides. I assume that most watchers by this point understand what pumping is. And slightly quicker on Josh's side, getting to the uncle in 57, whereas Chalmers was a 58. Just already slightly more efficient movement, but obviously not a huge gap between the two of them. Josh with some more favorable guard movement there, able to enter that door from the right without the extra wiggling on the left. So we're going to see both runners, basically same strat there, and good execution from both. Both runners just trying to knock that guard, to kill that guard with a double spin, but also knock it towards the door so that when the key spawns, it is already right near the door. Nice strat, just very efficient. And we're seeing Josh opening up about a 1 second lead. Slightly worse guard RNG for him there. Chalmers not getting the spin there, but really not much of a time difference between a poke and 2 slashes. And the double spin. I mean the poke spin. We'll see what strat the two runners go for here. Josh unfortunately having to boomerang that guard. Chalmers being able to skip it. Both will go for the 8 slash. Chalmers does get hit, and then Josh gets hit. Chalmers barely staying alive. And certainly... well, that was a little chancy for our ball and chain guard on both sides. Not ideal, and about a 2 second lead at this point for Josh. Now, 2 seconds in escape is not a big deal. You get a 553 or a 555. It's about gonna feel the same way. It's only a third of a blue ball, but it is educational to see where are people gaining and losing time in this segment. What does a really skillful escape segment look like versus one that's just passable, even from the same player? But there is a fair amount of RNG in this, you know. The same player can get a 552 escape one day, or even one run, and then a 558 the next. Josh getting very favorable guard patterns there. Chalmers as well, not having to boomerang, not having to wiggle at all. Josh getting a very nice 420 on the stairs there. We do like that 420 so that we can be high in the clouds. And when we push that throne, we really like to enter as quickly as possible into these sewers. We do see Chalmers solving that beat problem with that heart pot. Very favorable snake RNG for Josh. Very unfavorable for Chalmers. He needs to do a boomerang and 2 slashes, whereas Josh did not have to do anything. And actually same in this room. Chalmers having a lot of trouble and Josh getting straight through it. Between the RNG and the skill on Josh's side, we are seeing him put together a very good escape. Meanwhile, on Chalmers' side, I think we are seeing a very nervous escape that he is not going to be happy with his time so far. I don't want to say that he's not going to be happy with his play so far, because A lot of it has frankly not been his fault. A lot of it has been the fault of the RNG. But we do see Josh about a full long room ahead now. And Chalmers getting hit a lot, fortunately losing only that quarter heart. And Josh going in for, I suppose we would call this a 552 escape. Whereas Chalmers, I believe, is not going to come in, no, not coming in below 6 minutes, unfortunately. So almost a 10-second divide in this escape. Some of that certainly Josh skillfully navigating some of the situations he got in, but certainly a lot of that was just consistently very bad enemy patterns for Chalmers. We do see Josh getting that Sanctuary Heart. I believe he skips it in most of his RTA runs, but in a race setting, he's decided to get it to fill those hearts. And that Sanctuary Heart will come in useful later on, and Chalmers, of course, with only that one heart, decides to get it for now and for later. Some more bad patterns for Chalmers in that Octorok, losing just the one heart, and he's not going to worry too much about one heart. Honestly, if you enter Eastern with, you know, just a few hearts, it's really okay. There's easy heart pickups. It's more the time that you lose in getting, you know, in being hit and in having to pick up those hearts that is going to concern him at the moment. He's not worried about dying. We're seeing Josh skipping this 5-hour pot on the right there. We did see fine skeleton rooms from both runners, I believe. Strange from Chalmers, we're seeing him anti-pumping. So just as pumping saves you time when you're going left or up, anti-pumping wastes time going right or down. Maybe he doesn't understand that. We do see a very favorable drop for Josh there, able to walk in to that magic container. People in chat saying, I keep wanting to say, why did they skip that chest? Well, I'll tell you why. The reason is that we are playing a video game called Kamigami no Triforce. Kamigami no Triforce. Actually, it's called Zelda no Densetsu Kamigami no Triforce. It means Zelda, go set things up in your den and come get this Triforce, is the translation from the Japanese for that title. And in that game, we know which chests have what. Some of them have things we like, and some of them have things we don't like. Very nice drops. Josh getting the 5 arrows that he wants and that red rupee. We did see Chalmers also getting his red rupee. And Chalmers also getting his 5 arrow drop. And another 5-arrow drop. So Chalmers didn't want the arrows, and Josh could have used them. So exactly the wrong player, given the RNG, got that 5-arrow pickup. Really a very respectable time from Josh here, especially considering that he got the Sanctuary Heart. Getting a 10-3x with Sanctuary Heart is very good. And we're seeing about a 15-second difference here after Eastern. Have to say, Josh looks to be on point today, not boding that well for Chalmers. We're going to have to see either him up his game or a major mistake from Josh to even this up. 15 seconds this earlier in the game is a big difference. Now we're going to see some spin speed. Spin speed is a version of the super speed glitch, which basically, if you hit dash and do something else at the same time, sometimes the game gets confused and thinks you are still at dash speed for a long time. And in the spin speed case, that same thing is releasing your spin. And it's actually 1 frame later rather than at exactly the same time. Josh getting a nice bush dash there. That is the fastest way to make it through that room, but you need rather precise movement to do it, and I think most of us like to dash below the bushes just because you can get hit by a guard if you don't dash fast enough or at the right place down to those bushes. Josh also not getting the water dash, and that'll save some time as well. We're making our way over to this desert palace. Dashing is a big deal in the split on the overworld and in the palace. Of course, dashing is going to be our main movement mechanism for the rest of the game. You see Chalmers there on the left getting knocked about a little bit. The one flaw I would say in Josh's play so far is that we're seeing very little book spam from him. I really want to see him hitting that Y button more as he goes through Desert Palace. Interesting strat that Josh did there. As I said before, Josh does a lot of, you know, is at this point is doing a lot of things that we haven't necessarily seen before. He has a kind of compromise for the compromise strat there, where instead of walking left as most of us do, he walks right, so he can walk almost straight up and then dash left in that room. He does get knocked around by those cannonballs. A little bit of bad RNG. And we'll see how Chalmers does in that RNG. Can save just a little bit of time back on RNG there. Of course, there is a lot of RNG in this game. Most of it is enemy RNG, and you're constantly trying to figure out how do I adapt to enemy RNG, but there's also some RNG that is just straight up time loss RNG. The blue balls and the warps on Ganon. We did see Chalmers also getting the bad RNG, but a very precise dash back down, very impressive. And we're going to see both players making their way towards Desert 2, towards the latter half of this desert, where we're going to have a few challenging rooms in a row where we have to kill a bunch of popos and light some torches and get some keys and stuff, push around some blocks and so forth. And then we're going to have Lanmol is one of the most exciting boss fights in the game, and I expect Josh's fight to be a real treat. I have commentated some very good Landmola's fights so far this tournament, and I've commentated some real disasters, and I believe I have had both of them as well. So let's see how Josh does. Some unfortunate RNG in this Popo room, but deals with it well. You really like those Popos to move together so that you can kill them optimally with just one slash, but at least kind of in the same place without having to move around a lot. Josh, I'm sure, has practiced that room over and over again, and he knows exactly what to do when he sees any Popo movement at all. And he gets a 16 OX here. Very, very good time for these torches. You notice that he didn't get the replacement arrow pack. Is really happy with just 24. He knows it's enough. So let's see how this fight goes for him. So 5.5 hits out of the 12 he needs. And now he needs one more arrow on this guy and 2 more on the next guy for a nice 3-cycle. Oh, unfortunately the short hop. So that 3-cycle was really stolen from him, but now he gets a pretty good 4-cycle. He won't be so happy with that, but it's certainly going to be good enough. Meanwhile, 4 hits so far for Chalmers. 6 hits with 1 down. 7. Chalmers missing a lot of arrows, but he does have a lot of arrows to spare. And Chalmers also with a 4-cycle. Is Lanmo the worst fight in the game after Aga 1? No. Lanmo is a beautiful fight. It's a great fight, and anybody who says differently, I will be very angry at. I would say Aga 2 is probably the worst fight in the game after Aga 1. After that, Ganon has his Warp RNG, and Helmasaur King has his red balls. So a lot of bad fights. We are seeing some strange movement from Chalmers. One thing I want to remark, Chalmers' dashes, several times now you've seen him dash in just slightly the wrong place and have to stop his dash and start it over again after a slight adjustment. And this is adding up to be quite a bit of time, especially on these overworlds, I think, and in rooms that seem not to matter. In Desert Palace, you saw this as well. Very important to know all of your dash routes, all of your dash lanes, you know. Always get your angles correct. I mean, angles is the wrong word because dashing is always straight, but you know what I mean. You always want to be dashing from the right pixel to the right pixel, in the right direction. And Chalmers not doing himself any favors with these imprecise dashes. Josh, meanwhile, going to get his mirror. He's going to have a very solid an 18-4x mirror. That's really quite good. I didn't see quite what his time was for finishing Desert. He has lost a few hearts on this mountain so far. Does get knocked out of his super speed and is down to 2 hearts. We'll see how Josh deals with this situation. I think it should go almost without saying that Josh is capable of getting through the Tower of Hera with only 2 hearts. The question is whether in a race situation he will feel that that is the right strategy for him to use, given all the possible enemy movement RNGs that he could encounter, and given the whimsy and caprice of the Moldorm fight that we sometimes encounter. SNES Chalmers, by the way, with a healthy 5 hearts, so in a better health situation certainly than Josh, and in a slightly better Arrow and Ruby situation as well. So we'll just have to see what decisions Josh makes throughout this Tower of Hera. We did see him do a very nice dash to get above that mini Moldorm, to not get knocked to the side by that mini Moldorm. Oh, and a great down left boom dash to get this coffee break. We may even see Josh say hello in the chat here. Hi, Josh. And Josh has done what he wanted to. He hasn't lost any other hearts yet, with Chalmers losing just the one additional heart. Josh with an unfortunate Beetle Room. You saw that he got some. He messed up his Beetle Room by not picking up that pot. I think he was just on the one pixel where this happens, where you try to pick up the pot and you get the dash dust instead. You do see him hitting this switch for extra hearts if he needs them after this bomb jump. He will probably pick up a heart here, but he will have to lose it after that. Oh, and now he has to pick up this heart. So Josh cannot lose any more hearts in this room. You do see him doing the bonk. That's very good. Another dash dust there. And there's a lot of enemies here that can hit him. He is going to have to be very careful. Yes, you see him just waiting very patiently. And Chalmers entering this screen when Josh exits it. And that's the first time we've really seen them in a similar screen in a while. Well, of course, we saw them both in the tile room, but that's a very long room. So Chalmers, oh no, Chalmers was making up some ground, but then missed this bomb jump. And that is the second straight race that I've commentated where a racer missed the bomb jump, unfortunately. And at this point in this race, we have to say this is obviously the exact opposite of what Chalmers wants, but now Josh gets knocked off as well and is back down to one heart and is going to have to completely redo this Moldorm fight. Both of these players are going to be very unhappy with their Towers of Hera. Josh because he could have opened up a much bigger lead but fell down, and Chalmers because he could have gained the lead after this fall from Josh if he had not messed up what is not one of the hardest tricks in the game, certainly, but is a huge time loss if you mess it up. This bomb jump. Now a successful bomb jump and a successful Moldorm fight. So both players kind of resetting that, and the player who lost more time from those falls actually was Chalmers. Getting the small hole fall after just a few hits, Josh lost maybe 25 seconds, whereas Chalmers, that fall on the bomb jump cost perhaps upwards of 40 seconds. So Chalmers' stream has been stuttering a bit, so I didn't get to see exactly what happened, whether he mirrored and reset the entire dungeon or what. But certainly neither player feeling comfortable exactly in this race yet. Some nerves maybe on both sides, and we are seeing a gap of almost exactly 40 seconds. So basically the entire gap could have been closed by Chalmers without that bomb jump fall. That bomb jump fall now constitutes the entire gap between these two players, as we see Josh doing his true rupees. Bad RNG on that pickle, and he needs to walk up to shoot it instead. And Josh needs to not get hit. Did not do a precise dash there, needs to stop and start again, as we've seen often with Chalmers so far this run. And Josh not dashing into this grove, because we now know that dashing into this grove does induce lag. And Chalmers just doing a slightly different strat, probably saving a little bit of time over Josh, who had to deal with that pickle RNG. Both only going to need to get 3 red rupees from this tree, and both with over 10 arrows, so a very healthy arrow count for each of them as well. Yeah. Speculating on the emotional state of these players, we did see Josh saying cool dungeon, and we did see Chalmers saying thanks Hera in chat. So neither player feeling very happy. And we are coming up on Aga Tower, a difficult section of the game, and we will be making our way towards the blue balls, another possible frustration point for both players, and into Dark World, where things really start to get more difficult. So a lot of game left, but Josh, despite, I I think it's fair to say that Hera, well, really everything starting with that 4-cycle on Lanmo has been not what Josh wanted it to be. Losing all that health in the overworld and then falling on Moldorm. You see a kind of a backup strat to get that last kill for SNES Chalmers. Might as well have gotten that last rupee. He really was right next to it. But oh well. You're seeing Josh go into the Gold Knights here and doing the Pui strat. Missing that as well. Just some nerves on Josh's side, I think. He has been playing this category in this game a lot. I know that he has been doing no reset runs, so it's not that he is unused to being in this situation, behind in time. And he did deal with those Gold Knights fine. He did not get hit, and he did get the prize pack manipulation strat with his dash in the next room. So hopefully we're going to see Josh calm down just a little bit and solidify his play, and also hopefully we want Chalmers to find some way to recover here. He did kind of a slightly slower strat where he slashed down in that Gold Knights room, but it worked well for him. And both of these have kept almost all of their arrows and have also manipulated the prize pack effectively. And you're going to see that prize pack manipulation pay off in about 45 minutes in Turtle Rock. So already planning for Turtle Rock, these runners, and we hope that everybody here at Speed Gaming 2 will stick with us to that point. And very good RNG for Josh on that Circle of Pots room. And now I'm back. I had to do some things on my phone. We did see a 3 blue ball from Josh, so average number of blue balls, and very safely keeping his lead. Chalmers just had his first lightning, so I didn't see the count yet, but I'll be able to keep an eye from here to forward. There's 1. There's 2. And now Chalmers getting his second lightning, so he has at least 3 blue balls. We'll see if this is the kill or if he needs to hit more. Yep, so both with 3 blue balls, exactly the same blue ball count. And we do kind of like to see that, you know, just to make it fair between the 2 players. Although, to be honest, I think I and most viewers wouldn't have minded a slightly better blue ball count for Chalmers just to even things up a little bit. Now that we're getting into Dark World, this is really where the difference between a 124 player and a 128 player will really start to make itself felt. So certainly we will hope that Chalmers puts forward his very best play. And if that's the case, then we really will have a good watch either way. Either Josh will be putting forward his best play as well and widening the gap, or we will see some errors and we will see a close race going forward. Either way, I hope you guys stick with us for the next hour or so of this Dark World. So the beginning of this Palace of Darkness, you're seeing them just collecting some bombs and some keys. Now Josh making his way over to the big key. And we call it the big key because it's bigger than the other keys. So Josh doing some buffers here, not quite getting the pixel he wants, and is definitely going for a safer... Normally I think we would see Josh using sword buffers here, but given his position in the race, he knows he's not going to PB. He just wants to very safely get over that hammer, so we may see Chalmers doing a somewhat faster bomb jump, but Josh at this point is just thinking, you know, a few menu buffers won't hurt compared to the sword buffer, which could lead to a major mistake. And I think we'll see this from Josh going forward as well. In this race, he really does perceive that he has the advantage going in. Meanwhile, it is Chalmers who must return to that room after placing the bomb downwards instead of to the right. I think that's the pixel for him there. Yes, he did seem to have the first pixel, and maybe that's the second pixel right there. Yes, that does seem to be right. A little bit hard to parse what's going on the left screen, but that's really okay. We will focus on our number 1 seed for now. Making his way into the basement. We're going to have 2 critical rooms here. First the turtle room, and then of course the Helmasaur King fight. 2 of the harder rooms in this early part of Dark World, I would say. There's probably nothing in the next split of Thieves Town that is as hard as either of these rooms. You did see Josh having a little bit of a fiesta of the Tortugas there, with one of them going the wrong direction, and him having to put in just 2 extra hammer hits there. Loses maybe above a second. Not quite sure what just happened there to Chalmers. He thought he had fired an arrow, but it didn't count somehow. Josh doing a very quick... Unfortunately gets knocked out of having his sword drawn there and loses a little bit of time right at the end there. Is not going to have a 35 Palace of Darkness. Does get a very low 36. Will have a 36 sword up. Mike says Chalmers canceled the arrow with a beam. That is possible, although beams don't hurt. That's weird that a beam does not hurt a red mimic, but it can cancel an arrow, I guess. That is odd. Meanwhile, we will see Chalmers getting into this Helmasaur King fight as Josh finishes up this text here saying, Josh, I love you. You're so good at Zelda no Densetsu, Kamigami no Triforce. Come get the Triforce, and then you can get it as well, as the kids say. Very nice fight there from Chalmers, even getting that very last hammer hit. Whereas most of us, I think, would have gone for 2 slashes there. Chalmers says, well, I'm right here to the left, and I'll get this hit in. Really just very good looking fight there. Good Helmasaur King fight from both of them, actually. So I apologize. I did leave you guys go for a little bit there. Both players have lost a little bit of health. I didn't quite see how. We've got Chalmers at 5 hearts and Josh at 6 hearts. And that's by no means, you know, both will have enough health to finish up this Thieves Town. But, you know, things in Thieves Town hit pretty hard. These Zazek, those are the horse heads. They do 2 hearts of damage themselves. Blind's heads do 2 hearts, and lasers do 2 hearts. There's a lot of spikes that do 1 heart of damage, very difficult to avoid. So we'll just see how this Thieves Town goes. I myself have died in Thieves Town in 2 of my 4 races so far. So I'm hoping these players are safe throughout these Thieves Towns and do not make the same mistakes that I seem to make. We do see Chalmers recovering his health with those apples. He only gets 2 apples, unfortunately, so not really worth, in my opinion, to have done that. We do see Josh skipping a safety heart in a pot there, and doing a nice strat to get through that room. He does get the pixel, and he gets the RNG for the Hellway. Beautiful Hellway from Josh. And this Steve, despite the health loss, is shaping up to be pretty nice. Everything since he got into the dungeon. Does miss that hammer hit on that grasshopper. Gets out of that room with the bombable floor very quickly. Lots of people these days are doing kind of strange strats where they throw it to the side of the floor and stuff like that. I think some of them are lag reduction strats, or some of them are just to place you to dash most conveniently out of the room, I think. Josh very cleanly avoiding getting hit by that Zazuck there. He's going down into this sub-basement here to pick up his lady friend, and to pick up his golden gloves. But it turns out, unfortunately, this lady of Josh's has a little bit of a personality disorder. And that means when she's angry, she turns into something that she's usually not. Some of you may have dated women like this at one point or another. So what happens is, she's going to tell Josh, you put the spoons in the wrong cabinet. I told you they're supposed to go into the top cabinet, not the bottom cabinet. She's going to be very angry about this and turn into a monster. Many of us can relate to this from our real life situations. And a very classic, beautiful fight with Josh. From Josh, I mean. Everybody knows what we call this fight. We call it scripted. And yeah, not the best Thieves Town that Josh has ever had, I'm sure. But he is, in terms of this race, he is making fine time. Good dashes from Chalmers there. And we're going to see, as Chalmers makes his way over to this blind fight with the woman who's telling him to fix the hole in the roof, we will see Josh getting his 600 rupees for the flippers and getting his tempered sword. And Chalmers appears to have made it through the fight just fine as well. So about a half of the split is involved in getting all those rupees and that tempered sword. That mirroring back and forth is a pretty annoying part of the game, really. Meanwhile, the other half takes place in the Skullwoods dungeon. I think it's one of the hardest dungeons playing casually, but it's really very short for a speedrun. We do have a bomb jump, and we do upgrade this tempered sword that most players in a casual run, I believe, would have done this before Thieves Town because it is numbered 3. A very skillful bomb jump from Josh there. Now, we did see Josh get hit by, I believe, one of the mummies. So he is down to 5 hearts. We have seen people have some trouble in Skullwoods. And I have a bad habit of whenever I notice somebody is low on hearts or bombs or whatever, it does come back to haunt them. But I will say that I expect Josh to have no problem with 5 hearts. I expect him to be just fine. A very skillful mummy hellway from Josh there. Just really getting very quickly through this second part of Skullwoods. Using that switch to the mirror, he knows that he is not going to be using the fire rod on Mothula. That is a switch that the top players all seem to do. I myself like to use the fire rod on Mothula sometimes. A completely optimal fight, no spike movement at all. Incredible, incredible fight from Josh. You guys may or may not know that Josh has written a tutorial about this fight. Meanwhile, Chalmers getting hit around by those moldomes a little bit, but still has 5.5 hearts. We'll be just fine. We see a little bit more trouble for Chalmers on that Mothula fight, but getting through it. And we're seeing Josh getting his Quake Medallion. He did lose a half heart, and he would like to have full hearts going into ice so that he can use those sword beams. So he picks up that rock looking for a heart, but does not find it, and makes his way over to request his flippers or his finger webs, as we say. So we did see Josh not able to use those beams. It took a little bit of time to get that first key. And we're going to see him make his way very quickly through the next few rooms and make his way towards the Ice Palace bomb jump and then towards Cold Stare. So we can expect to see a very nice strat in this room. Well, no, actually, a little bit confusing what happened with Josh there. But we won't worry too much about it. Now he's going to do his Ice Palace bomb jump. He does somehow have 3 bombs. He actually has an extra bomb at this point. I'm not sure quite where he picked that up. I guess it must have been from a drop somewhere. Now he's making his way into this pen gated room. He's going to kill all 5 of them at once. Perfect, beautiful. And he's going to take a little damage here, get through that. He's doing nice, very nice Lonely Firebar with hammer. That's a strat where you use the ice physics to very quickly get across that room. And now he's making his way towards the Cold Stare fight. And I don't remember exactly what strat Josh has been doing, but I bet it's going to look very impressive. Oh, so Josh almost in a little bit of trouble there. He did the, I guess we call it the poke spin strat with 2 pokes and then a double spin. But somehow, I guess one of his pokes, it must have been, only got 2 of the puffs. And so we had to do 1 final slash for that last one. So very lucky there that he had that 1 extra hit that he could tank. And he will also be feeling lucky. A death on Cold Stare would have been one of the few things that would have been difficult for Josh to come back from, I believe, at this point in the race. We do see Chalmers quite a bit behind now, only just now getting to this Ice Palace bomb jump and having a little bit of trouble getting the right pixel right away. Chalmers down to just the 1 bomb remaining. Does take damage from that firebar. And Josh will be making his way over to Swamp Palace Now this is a dungeon that Josh has told me is free. And so we'll see just how free it is. So if Josh makes any mistakes, we have to be really hard on him about this dungeon. You saw Chalmers there doing a kind of modified Lonely Fire Bar where slightly slower, just doing the one dash at the end there. So that room didn't look free, Josh. He had to use his sword beams on one of those little water crawlers or whatever we call them. How free was that? Come on. We see Chalmers making his way out of this Ice Palace cutscene. I don't know exactly what the difference in time is now, but it must be close to 2 minutes, I believe. And a 2-minute time gap is where you're starting to see that even a major mistake, say a death well into the Ganon fight or a death on Vitreous and Mire, even a major mistake like that could be salvaged by Josh. So he's starting to develop a real cushion for his lead. We'll have to see what sort of pace he's on. I would guess that, given some of the things that have happened and 3 blue balls and so forth, I think he must be on what for him is going to be maybe a 126 pace. And Chalmers will need to play really exquisitely and to have Josh make a mistake to make up the gap at this point. And Josh making his way over to the hook shot. I will admit that since that first room, this has looked like a pretty free dungeon for Josh. He's done quite well. So one thing I love is that this pause screen for Chalmers says 5920.00, and that 0.00 really perfect, really beautiful. Note that Josh has full hearts. Apart from the very first room, he has done perfectly in this swamp and has really proven that I am an idiot who should not talk. He does get these arrows. That wastes not quite a second, I believe. And a bonk. Oh, that dash isn't free now, is it, Josh? Is it? Is it free, huh? Oh, and almost getting that zero cycle there. He did have to do one extra hook shot because his penultimate hook shot clicked into Argus's face rather than the puff ball. But still a very good fight there. And yeah, we will just have to you know, Josh will be playing in the dark now, given the issues that we're having on the left side of the screen. But personal belief is that it won't matter too much to him. He just knows that he needs to play solidly. He needs to finish out this run. As we said, Chalmers had a 128.41, and he is not on pace to beat that. I know that Josh can do the remaining part of the game in 25 minutes very easily. It should be no problem at all for him to do the rest of the game in about 25 minutes. And so even with some time losses, we would be seeing a 127 from Josh here. So he's in fine shape. We're going to see him collecting his Ether Medallion to open up Mire and his Ice Rod, which he needs to beat Trinex and Turtle Rock. Nice strat there to get that Dead Rock out of his way, but does have to dash anyway after getting hit by the cabbage. Makes his way past that eye, very good. So Josh did lose another heart, and a little bit of a problem with that flute menu. So he is down to 10 hearts. We'll see how he deals with this situation. Perhaps he'll be hoping for a heart from the Wizrobes in the second room in Mire, the Mire 2 Wizrobes room we call it. Or perhaps he will just modify his strategy somewhat. 10 hearts is enough to get through this dungeon, even though you do need to take a lot of required damage throughout the dungeon. So we'll just see what decisions he makes going forward. So I'm trying to check and make sure that our restreamer knows to maybe refresh the stream on the left. Meanwhile, we see Josh doing a nice job getting through this mire. So far, has not managed to get that heart back, but not a huge worry. Does have to use that fire rod to kill that red buzz blob, but, you know, whatever. It's all good. At this point, my boy Josh is thinking it's all good. Well, he does miss that fire rod shot. And I'm surprised he didn't do that last fire shot from above. Barely. Anyway, Josh making his way through this mire. I'm not for the first time. I am getting owned by my lack of Simpsons knowledge. We did see Josh recovering a heart there after losing those 3 hearts in the spike room. Now has 8. That's more than enough for any strat you need on Vitreous. Even the most damaging strat, 7 hearts is the minimum. And most racers these days we see go for the 5 heart strat that WQ has popularized. Chalmers saying 109 torches. So he does have, he is still behind, but he's still behind by the majority of this mire. There we go. Oh no, and Josh getting hit. Josh getting hit by an eyeball and is now in a real situation here. Not quite sure what he's going for here with this top right backup. He cannot tank another hit from either lightning or from an eyeball, but this backup does seem to be going well for him, and he has escaped after getting hit and losing 4 hearts from an eyeball. He has managed his way out of it, and just knowing where he was at, knowing what was going on, certainly a time loss there for Josh. I believe we'll be on possibly a 127 pace still, and certainly still has his advantage in this race. Chalmers, on the other hand, is already down to 7 hearts going into the spike room here. Not looking good for Chalmers. He's going to have to make some decisions. He has already decided not to get this key from a safer location, so he will probably try to get some hearts either from farming or from a hookshot glitch, where if you get a heart on a certain frame with the hookshot or with the boomerang, you will get 2 hearts instead of 1 in the refill. So let's watch Chalmers now that he's back, and see exactly what goes on. He only gets the 1 heart. He's only got 5 hearts. He is going to have to do a safer video strat. Maybe the WQ video. We'll see if he can do that. But it turns out that after Josh's problems on Vitreous, and we see Josh now trying to do the Waffle House drive-through, and does not go exactly as he had hoped. It is actually Chalmers with the health problems here. Gets a nice cane dash there, but still only the 5 hearts on Vitreous, and will need to have a flawless WQ Vidi to come through here alive. Meanwhile, Josh, having some rough stuff in this overworld of his, does get knocked about by these squirrels, these dead rocks, but gets through it fine. And at this point, Josh is thinking, I have had my mistakes in this run. I just need to get through it. I need to finish this out. I don't need to be perfect. I'm not showing my best play today, but I do not need to. I just need to make it through. And we do see this Vidi working out great for Chalmers. A great fight, exactly what he needed. So all props to him, making it through, taking it down, as we like to say. And Chalmers as well may be, I cannot say for sure, but may be on pace to still get a sub 130, to get a 129 in this race. We do not think he's going to be on pace for a 128 for anything close to a PB, but to get a sub 130 after some of the events that have transpired in this race would be quite the coup, quite the impressive play. And props to him for going for that fight. He knows he needs to go for broke at this point in the race. As we see Josh going for the fast roller strat. Now, we did see Josh practicing Turtle Rock before this race started, and we're about to see him doing the parts that he practiced. So let's see how these next 2 rooms go. He gets the fairy drop and the magic drop. Very good. And just a great reaction to not the best RNG. Decides to go right instead of left. And it works out great. And actually a somewhat better, loses it right at the end there, but a somewhat better drive through for Chalmers there on the left. And that new strat where people will continue knocking those dead rocks down is really cool. I didn't even know until just a few weeks ago that you could even do that after you had hit them once. Beautiful way of dealing with not the best RNG on that Toki 1 for Josh. Lines himself up with the wall and gets the key dash while avoiding the bunny beam. Just beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous from Josh. And we are seeing now some of that number 1 seed stuff. It's not quite all there today. It's not quite all together. It will be back to the drawing board to a certain extent after this, but we're certainly seeing why he's the number 1 seed in some of these moments of speed gaming brilliance. Bad menu from Chalmers there. Everybody needs to work on their menus a little bit. I know it's not so much time, but it's just an aesthetic thing. Josh with beams here, able to do many fast strats in these rooms that you cannot do without beams. And again, we see Chalmers about half a dungeon behind, really doing the opening parts of this dungeon while Josh is closing it out and making his way to the boss, and that's exactly what we saw in Meyer. He is maintaining this gap, and I believe we will expect to see this gap extended throughout the very challenging Ganon Tower and Ganon fight. If there are no mishaps in the remainder of this Turtle Rock for Josh. Now that is a bit of a mishap, but oh, look at how he deals with that. Such a funny thing. Just right in the moment, discovering that he can put that there and keep that that beetle stuck behind it. And he does not need to shove the beetle off. He The beetle was in his way, and then he slashed it downwards and was not able to knock it off. But a great solution in the moment. I don't know if he's practiced that or if it was just what he came up with, but very good situational awareness. And he has full health almost and full magic for this Trinex fight. No concerns at all. In fact, I'm going to turn my attention left and watch Snatch Chalmers deal with some of these Poké's rooms as we see just a textbook fight from JoshRTA. Commentator died. No. There just hasn't been much to talk about. Both of these players getting through all these rooms fine. We did see that Chalmers picked up that fairy drop and now is at a... We're going to see Josh skip this first key. A beautiful dash there. And Josh is going to make his way through these early rooms of Ganon's Tower. Josh does get that spike skip. I know that's one of his favorite things in the game to get. A little bit strange there. Chalmers going for a fourth hit on that ice head. You know you can never get that. Chalmers just barely missing that double spin, but does not lose that much time in doing so. The behind Trinex strat, we call that the back door. It is faster. It can skip a cycle sometimes if you do it optimally. Of the head kind of poking out. I don't do it myself. I'm not good at this game. We're going to see Josh picking up the left chest for another 10 arrows here as he is down to only one. You see some very interesting menu buffers for Josh. For example, menuing to the mirror there to ensure that he doesn't spend too much time pushing that block. You did see him messing up that Mimics too, unfortunately. That can be a very amazing room when done right, but just doesn't quite get it there. Still at 9 hearts though, nothing to worry about. Making his way through this spike room. Does get hit by that spike as well. And gets the Ganon Ball Z. Interesting strat here. Skips the pot. Normally people pick up that first pot to throw it at a skeleton. And does get a very good job dashing all the way across the room for that first kill. Very, very good movements from these enemies. And altogether, a pretty solid gauntlet as he uses that fire rod to kill the skeleton and makes his way over with the ice physics manipulation to the last Zazig of the entire game, if I'm not mistaken. Gets a great one cycle Landmo 2 using that fire rod, and will now dash straight up. Does not need magic, does not need hearts. Little bit of a dance there entering that room. Not quite sure what he was going for. I think maybe he shifted left, but had shifted too far left, so had to go back right. It is optimal to go left to avoid stair lag when entering that room, but you can only go left for 1 frame for the 2 pixels that it takes you. Otherwise, your King of Samaria shot will not hit all 3 of them, I believe. So most of us go right, but very good players go left, and Josh saw that he had gone too far left. We do see the Ice Armor fight on the left of our screen. Chalmers still with full hearts, making his way in good time through Ganon's tower so far, I believe. Takes a little damage there. We'll see if he can recover for this fight. Looks like he does recover perfectly. Very impressive situational awareness from him. Good room to get that final key. Funny little damage boost. No hover from Josh. And a very good Moldern 2 kill. Gets that dash with no bonk there. There's some setups for that, but I forget what they are. Josh must have done one of them. Looks like Chalmers missed a couple arrows there. And then Mimics 1, we'll see how he deals with that. Hopefully does not take too much more time. Certainly did not get hit again from the looks of it. Only 1 hit. Only 1 hit again. Two hits that time. It could be a very healthy 4 cycle here. Yep, 1-1-2-2. Not a bad fight. But not what Josh was hoping for, certainly. And it looks like despite everything, Josh is still going to have a nice 126 here. It looks to me like he's going to end the race about 2 minutes behind his PB, which means it'll be pretty average run. Certainly better than what he needed in this particular matchup, but not going to put him necessarily in good enough stead in the future. So he will be thinking about this race as he goes up to face the other 124 and 125 runners in the field in future rounds. Now we did see Josh get hit, but we're not too worried about Josh. I'm actually more worried about Chalmers with his 5 hearts remaining in Tower of Hera. I mean, in Ganon's tower, excuse me. Shoutouts to Scrivo in the chat. Hyped for my new headset. Now Ganon does turn blue there. Unfortunately. But now it looks like we just need 4 cycles of triples to kill him. This end of this fight is not really that hard. It's a small window, but not that small to get these spins in. And you really can release your spin pretty much whenever you like. And this will be it. This will be a 126, 32, or 33. Chalmers having a weird way making it across the screen. As I said, Chalmers may still be on 129 pace. I'm hoping he can pull this out. Josh with that 126.33, as I predicted. And maybe we'll get him in here for an interview. And I will need to switch where I am commentating from, if so.
Hello?
Hello, Josh.
Oh, hey.
How are you? How do you feel about this run?
This wasn't my best speed run.
But you made it through. You had a lot of points where we were maybe a little bit worried about you, and you always found a way. So you are on to the next round. What do you take away for the rest of the tournament? Are there things you're going to practice? Are there things you're going to think about in the next rounds that maybe you weren't thinking about during this one?
I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. That's fair. No worries. Fair enough.
There are probably some things I need to work on. Hammer jump's been giving me a lot of trouble lately, and that's one thing that went poorly.
Yeah, I noticed
Vitreous.
I noticed that you were using the menu buffers on the hammer jump instead of sword buffers. Are you doing things a little bit more safely in tournament races just to make sure that you don't have major mishaps like that?
Yeah, trying to, for sure. I got Sanctuary Heart, of course, which, yeah. And generally played it kind of safe. I hit safety switch in Era, which I probably wouldn't ordinarily do, RTA.
And, yeah, and you ended up needing those hearts, right?
Yeah, I did.
So as you go forward in the tournament, obviously you're going to be going into matchups where maybe you don't have quite as much leeway. So are there some of those safeties that you're going to think about, deciding not to go with anymore? How are you going to?
I'll probably still stick with Sanctuary Heart. Maybe unless I face Blunt at some point, which I would only face Blunt in the finals or the bronze match, because we're on opposite ends of the bracket.
Right. Although I think there's
Um,
probably several people who have that predicted both as the finals and as the bronze match.
yeah,
And you guys
yeah,
have
my
you guys have PBs that are within what 1 second of each other or something.
yes, yeah,
Yeah. Well, that would be
and
a great matchup.
I would say that our average runs are very similar. Um, like he would be a tough opponent, the toughest in the tournament
So what did
to
we
me.
see? Give me a little perspective. Did we see? Was this an average run from you, or was this maybe
Uh,
below your average no reset time?
yeah, I would say this is a bit below. Um, well, I don't know. Things happen. Uh, obviously, there are some things that could have happened to me that would have made the time much worse than this. Um,
Yeah, the safety strat in Vitreous was very successful, I thought.
yeah,
And very good presence of mind to go into that upper right corner and do that. Although I imagine also, I mean, there's not much to do once you get hit by that eyeball. You need to come up with
yeah.
you need to come up with a solution quick.
That was I made a mistake there that I hadn't made in a while, and I just did a really poor job of realizing exactly what had happened. I took sort of I guess with the newer WQ Vitreous strategy, you're supposed to go for that first spin and take only 1 heart of damage from the goo surrounding Vitreous, but I accidentally took 2 hearts of damage, and that resulted in my iframe cycle sort of being off from what I'm used to. So when I walked in and went for the second spin, my iframe sort of wore off while I'm, among the eyeballs.
So when you walked into the goo the second time, you were still on the iframes from the unintentional second damage boost in the first time you walked in. That makes complete sense, even though it's a little complicated.
Yeah.
That WQ video is always really impressive when it goes right. We did see Chalmers has muted his mic, so maybe he's not with us yet.
Hello.
Hey Chalmers, we did see a very successful Vitreous from you on only 5 hearts. You went for it and you got it. I think you got the 0 cycle there, right?
Yes, it was very scary, but I did get it.
So lots of impressive stuff from you this race, and actually the gap between your 2 race times is almost exactly the gap between your 2 PBs. How did you feel about this run, Chalmers, and how do you feel about the tournament?
Well, this run, mixed emotions. I mean, some stuff went well, some stuff didn't, obviously. More so upset about the quality of the stream, so I apologize about that. Hopefully the PowerPoint was very informative on how not to play this game.
Well, we were certainly able to see high and low points, I would say, of your run. So we saw some great boss fights, and we also saw maybe some bomb jumps that weren't ideal.
Yeah.
So I would say actually from the Hera bomb jump and the hammer jump, that's probably a full minute. Those 2 mistakes put together.
Yeah, a lot of the bomb jumps didn't really go my way this run. I'm pretty sure I actually fell on every single one of them. So the pod one in particular, I had it set up properly, but I literally picked up the bomb or I set it downwards instead of turning to the right and setting it.
So
that kind of threw me off.
What was your thought process going into this race? You're playing the number 1 seed. You're playing up 4 minutes in terms of PB. It seemed like you just wanted to show us what you could do, even knowing that Josh with an average run was able to win. How do you feel you executed today?
Like I said, I think I did some stuff pretty well. I was going into this with a mindset that, like you said, Josh is a better runner than myself, but I wanted to put on a good show, try and give him a run for his money, and for a while I almost did, and then everything started going awry. So, yeah, congratulations, Josh, by the way.
Thanks. I think it was a good race.
I tried.
Well, I kind of got dragged into this, not expecting to do it. So I'm probably gonna ask you guys for your final thoughts, and then go back to the stuff that I'm procrastinating. So any final thoughts from the 2 of you on the race, on the tournament, on Zelda no Densetsu Kamigami no Triforce?
I'll let you first, Josh, if you want.
Yeah, it's been fun. I look forward to my next race, which I believe will be against Casnode or I forget who Casnode's opponent is. Yeah, I think it's Casnode or Imosaru.
Yeah, so that would
Yeah.
be, I believe Casnode has gotten a mid 26 in this tournament already, so it could be a very close race
Yeah.
between you and Casnode. I'm going to make sure to watch that one. Of course, it could still be Imosaru as well, who has shown us some impressive play as well.
Yeah, and I think Casnode as well is definitely capable of PB and a 125, even though he hasn't gotten a 125 yet. So I don't even know that I'm safe for the 125, which is still a good run for me, I would say. 125 is a solid run. And I, can't really hope to do much better than that in a race.
How about you, Chalmers? Final thoughts?
Tournament was a blast. Played some good opponents, had some fun races. Lots of good runners left. Thank you, by the way, for jumping in on commentary last minute. That was awesome.
No
Good to
problem.
have
I
you.
enjoyed it. I took a few breaks.
Nice.
People noticed, of course.
Of course they did. But no, other than that, no, good luck to Josh going on. He's definitely one of the top runners in there. I think in my predictions I have him and Blunt Bunny in the finals, so let's hope that comes to fruition.
All right, sounds good. Thank you everybody for watching. I don't know exactly what you have up next here on Speed Gaming 2, but I know that in terms of no major glitches, I believe we have another race in an hour. Is that correct?
Yeah, Wolfie and Linko, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think Scudge and Jessel are on commentary.
That should be great. Wolfie and Linko, I think, could be a very, very close race. We did see Linko already getting a 126 PB in one of the group stage matches. So Linko really at the top of his game, and Wolfie a very strong player as well. So make sure to join us on whatever channel that's going to be in an hour. And I will not be commentating that one, but sounds like you have some great commentators lined up. And thanks everybody for watching.
Yeah, thanks again.
Peace.
Later.